Today, we're going to be working on pre-shading.
Not So Average Builder is sponsored by USAGundamStore.com, bringing the hobby to your front door. Use promo code NOTSOAVERAGE and get 10% off your next order.
Hey guys, Tom here, and this is Not So Average Builder. And there are tons of different ways of pre-shading, and we're going to cover the main three. But first, before I get into that, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you hang out at the channel for a bit. And if you have any questions about the techniques that I'm using, drop a comment down below. Let's talk about Patreon for a minute. Patreon is an awesome tool that helps people like yourself give back to your favorite creators to help them prosper as far as trying new techniques, getting new equipment, stuff like that, to make the viewing experience for you a lot better. If you'd like to become a patron of the channel, it's patreon.com/NotSoAverageBuilder, and there is a link in the description below. Enough about that. I've got a very important message to all of my Not So Average Builder fans. Recently, I posted up some pictures onto a couple of different sites, and I learned something. I learned something very important, and it's a message that I want to get back to you guys. There's really no wrong way to do anything in this hobby. Unless you're physically attempting to hurt yourself, or the potential to hurt yourself is there, then that may be. But as far as like constructive criticism, that is also welcomed. But you are never wrong. If you are trying new techniques, if you are going out of your way to step out of your comfort zone in this hobby and to try something you haven't tried before, it is okay. Even if you don't follow what I do to the T, it is not a big deal. There are ways to fix it, and you will learn these ways over time. I've been doing this for almost 15 years, off and on, building models. I've stepped out of my comfort zone again and again, timeless times. That makes no sense, right? But I want that is the whole reason why I started this channel, is for you guys who either are thinking about getting into the hobby. You can kind of jump in and, really go all out if you wanted to, or stay at a snail's pace, whatever you're choosing. But for those that have been in the hobby, who kind of just, I don't want this to sound bad, that you guys sail by. You do the same thing over and over again because you're scared to try new techniques. We've all been there. Trust me, we have all been there. You ask any modeler, period, and at one point or another they were nervous about doing something. Don't worry about that. Keep pushing yourself. That is the whole point of all of my videos, is to try and get you to do new techniques, to try new things. Don't ever let anybody tell you you're doing something wrong. Again, unless it is potentially because you could hurt yourself, whether it not be a respirator, knife handling, or whatnot. But painting, don't let them tell you. There is ways to find techniques. Picasso, Rembrandt, these people didn't stay in their comfort zone. They tried new techniques. They did new things, and they did amazing at it. So those are the things that I want you to do. Don't take constructive criticism, don't get me wrong, but don't let somebody tell you you're blatantly wrong in doing something. There's multiple ways to achieve multiple different techniques in this industry. Just end of discussion. I also want to give a huge shout out to Justin at Ragtag Daydreams. Check out his channel. He just completed his crap kit by making it better. It was the Rick Diaz. There'll be pictures right here. But without him, I would have probably been screwed. My microphone decided to take a dump on me. It was a $12 Amazon microphone. A coworker was able to fix it, but the sound quality on that thing is quite terrible. But old Justin, being the awesome dude that he is, hooked me up with a temporary mic in the time being, and it sounds a million times better than that $12 one. It's still a cheaper Spectrum microphone, but it is way better. So again, thank you, Justin at Ragtag Daydreams. Check his YouTube channel out. Put that right here. and make sure you subscribe. He's an awesome dude. His content's going to be kind of slower this month because he works at a haunted house. Not only that, but a haunted house that's highly rated. So check it out. Check out his channel. There's a ton of stuff on there. But enough rambling on. Let's hop right into this. Now for white, you don't want to use a straight black. It'll be too dark. You can use it, but it'll just know that you're going to create a lot darker of a shade. So I use like a deep blue, like a sea blue. I'm using actually the Mission Models sea blue, and it seems to work pretty well. But you're just going to find every crack, every crevice, everywhere that there would be a gap. That's where you want to shade. You don't want to get it as much on the flat panels. If you get a little bit on there, it's not a big deal. You don't want to, hit it with a full-on color coat. I end up accidentally doing this, and it's not a big deal. Your color coat will cover it all. Just make sure you get all of the edges, the recesses, all of those things. It's very, very simple stuff. And I'll give you a couple examples. Like that little, that's the back of the foot on the Alex. And there's a little notch cut in there. Shade that. No point in not doing it. It just adds to the depth, the realism of the kits. Like I said, I'm going to throw in a couple examples. Now we're going to go on to the inner frame parts. Now I was doing a dark, semi-dark blue, and I'm using Secret Weapon Miniatures Tire Black as my shade. Now I did use that as a mix-in color for the blue to give it that darkness. So that is another way you can do this. You can kind of add it in there. Now as far as the orange, I'm going with continuity. I did use the Tamiya Royal Blue. So for continuity reasons, I'm going to continue using the Royal Blue. The next time I do orange, I probably won't use that color. It turned out okay, but it kind of almost gave it a green hue, which, you know what, things are going to make different, your undercoats are always going to change the color of your overcoats. So just keep that in mind as well. But on this foot panel, there's a lot of little shades and recesses, and if you get your airbrush PSI low enough, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're not looking for absolutely perfectly straight lines, but it'll make it look good. Now, as far as your color coat goes, we'll go in order of what we did. The white, basically all you're doing is just doing mist coats. You don't want to build it up all in one layer because then you'll cover your stuff up. And this is sped up, so don't think that you have to airbrush at this speed. But I just did, I think I did 2 misty coats, or 1 misty coat and 1 little heavier, and just pick out your places, focusing more on the flat panels and letting your overspray go on to your recessed areas. So that way it still allows them to shine through, but then they're also covering up, but they're a thin enough coat so that the opacity is low enough that it'll actually give you a nice depth to light color. Now, like on panels like this, that flat panel, I just did a circular motion in the center. And that's also another way you can add realism. It kind of gives the part a 3D effect, almost a rounded edge on that flat panel. Same thing with this one. Each one of those panels, you just do that. And you can do a heavier coat right there, just a little bit, and then go over the whole piece with a light coat, and that'll tie everything together. And that's what you kind of want to do. You just want to accent your shaded areas, but you don't want them to make them prominent. Because if you make them prominent, it could drastically change the overall look of your kit. Now the hardest part I will have to say about all this is making sure that you get the parts similar, shaded, and colored on everything. So that is a difficult task on its own, but it's one you'll learn as you go. And then as far as the orange goes, I did 3 coats. I didn't show all 3 coats. I showed the first one, and then I'm showing the third one. Just follow the manufacturer's recommendations on lacquers. I don't know how they do in lighter coats, but I did the light misty coat, the medium wet coat, and then the final wet coat. But I was still kind of light on the trigger just to make sure that I didn't cover up all my shade. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind. A lot of this is airbrush control. A lot of it. And the only way you're going to get airbrush control is by doing it. Now let's on to the second one. So you're going to take your red. I had a magic spoon just there. And you're going to prime it, and then you're going to paint it in that red color. This is the miniature way. So I'm going to piggyback off my previous color. What I'm doing here is taking the red and orange, and I'm covering 90% of the spoon with that red-orange mixture. You don't want to, you still want to leave some of the red showing. In hindsight, I probably should have covered all of the spoon, but oh well. So then what you're going to do after this is dry, you'll take your orange out completely, and you will just put, or you'll take your red orange out and you'll just put straight orange in there, and you're going to focus on a smaller spot highlight. And again, in hindsight, I probably should have just covered the whole thing. Oh well, neither here nor there. There's different ways you can do it. It still turned out really cool. And then finally, you can take a spot highlight of yellow, and just a touch. I rocked the trigger back too far, and you'll see that in a second. It went a little crazy and kind of caused it to splatter a bit. Oops. Those are things that happen. People make mistakes. So no, I didn't take all of the orange out. I had a little bit of yellow in there, but you can see it kind of sprayed a little bit. Now the best thing you can do in this situation is to air dry it with your airbrush as much as possible and feather the edges with a very, very light amount of paint around the edges, and that will help to blend that splotch out. Now you can kind of see what just a plain red spoon versus that looks like. Now we're going to do a red spoon again, but this time we're going to do the starter white. So you paint your red, and then you're going to take a white, and about 50% of the spoon or 50% of the panel, you're going to spray the white. And I'll show you why you only do 50%. But white is a difficult one. It's going to look darker, so you have to do it in very, very light coats. This is sped up to kind of make things go a little quicker. But essentially what you do, keep building it up, and then we're going to switch straight to our orange. We're going to clean our airbrush pot out, and we're going to switch straight over to orange, and we're going to spray the whole entire piece. So this, the first one, and this third one would be the closest thing to actually pre-shading, because you're actually covering up all of the pre-shade that you did with your color coat. The other one would be more like a pre-color. I don't know, you're painting on all your shade and then just building up on top of that. Where the starter white technique, you are going to be putting your orange over top of a really light color, so it kind of gives the effect that it's very light versus very dark. And in hindsight, you could probably just paint the outer rim of your area with your dark color if you primed it in white, and go from there and just do the same thing. But on this, again, I'm building it up in coats. Spray the whole entirety of the spoon, and that gives you your dark color where your shade is and your light color in the center of the panel. And this is a technical technique. It can get kind of a pain in the butt, because if you don't get your airbrush lines just right, and it may be because I was doing it on a spoon, but it can be kind of difficult to do. But by all means, give it a shot. That's all you can do. Give it a shot, try it out, see what you think. If you hate it, try it again in a couple of weeks or a week. So then you just keep air drying this off. You keep adding more paint to it to kind of give your orange more opaque layer, but it still has some transparency. And then I added some yellow. You could have stopped here, but I added some yellow in. Same thing as I used before, flat yellow. And you're going to take, and I added it straight in with the orange. So it wasn't a drastic change, but it was just enough to where you could see that there was a lighter color. And then you just spray it on the center. But guys, that is all there is to it as far as pre-shading goes. There are tons of different ways. These are just 3 that I showed you. And they are super simple to do. Some are a little more technical than others, but otherwise they are pretty simple to do. Don't stress yourself out about it. Just keep going with it. Keep trying new techniques. Don't let anybody tell you that you are wrong on something, especially if you've tried. Like I said, if you're hurting yourself or have the potential to hurt yourself, I understand somebody telling you you're doing something wrong. But in this industry, if you're trying new stuff, you are not wrong. You are doing absolutely everything you should be, giving things a try. You can see here the difference between the two techniques. The orange on the right is definitely brighter, and the one on the left is more of a fade from red to orange versus a dark orange to light orange. But both of these techniques can be used on Gunpla, can be used on your kits, can make them look amazing. So definitely keep trying new things. Make sure that you're giving yourself confidence. If you have any questions, definitely drop comments down below. I will answer it. You can shoot me an email with your work if you're worried about it. It's notsoaveragebuilder@gmail.com. Shoot me a message with your stuff. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you've got. But remember, guys, don't just be an average builder. Be a not so average one. Have a wonderful day. Bye.